So for the past few days, I've been sharing my personal stories because one thing I've discovered in the school of discipleship is the power of stories. Just seeing the faithfulness of God in the lives of others. For instance, using the scriptures as an example, what does the Bible say? It says the things which were written aforetime were written for our learning, so that we through the patience and the comfort of scriptures may find hope, may have hope. So there is a powerful encouragement in the story of others. And I want to share today some things that helped me grow spiritually. I want to share 5 things that helped me grow spiritually, because a lot of people have wondered, how come your walk with God essentially seriously started in 2006 and you are here now? How could God have helped you to develop so fast and now you're a blessing to God's people? How is it? I want to share some things. You see, number one thing that you cannot take away from my privileged story is a heavy investment in knowledge. Heavy investment in knowledge. You see, the Bible describing this uses a metaphor. It says, buy the truth and sell it not. And that just tells you, it paints a picture in your mind that the truth that you need to take you to the next level, listen, it's not going to come cheap. It's going to come at a cost, maybe not a financial cost, but it's going to cost you something. You're going to have to sacrifice. You see, as a student, the moment I got filled with the Spirit and I discovered there was a call in my life, one of the things I invested heavily, even as a student, was in books. If you find anybody who had been maybe my roommate or had been to my room, one thing they would tell you is I always had books. I always had a lot of books. All right. And you might have heard me share the story of one of the holidays. I was still in my parents' house at the time, and all day my dad had been looking for me, wondering where I was. And so he opened the door of my room, and as soon as he put his leg down, he stepped on books. Because I was reading so voraciously, that the books were on the ground. So in fact, I was reading chapter by chapter. I would read 2 chapters in a book and move to the next book. See, it's very hard to describe. I mean, I might have had symptoms of craze at some point because even now recounting this, I'm just like, what was I doing really? And that's one of the few times I've heard my dad call my mom in one of her, Yoruba names. My mom is Yoruba. He screamed, "Morenike, come and see your son. Is this why we sent him to school?" This is one of the stories I just think of and I laugh. And he went on and on, talking about how I use almost all my money to buy books and maybe worried if I was focusing enough in school and all of that. Don't try this at home. But at the end of the day, all I'm trying to say is, listen, if you want to look for gold, don't think you will find it at the surface. A lot of people listening to my sermons, listen to me communicate, they say, well, this wealth of wisdom, like someone said 2 days ago, I mean, if I had 50% of this wealth of wisdom, I'll be so blessed, or something like that. And I'm really touched and encouraged. I personally still think I have a long way to go, and all of that, but at the end of the day, you need to know that it must come at a cost. Count the cost. You must be ready. There is no great CEO who has not read many books. There is no great leader in any field who has not read many books. You see, and one of the key tests of intelligence is to know your limits. I know that you're intelligent when you realize how much you don't know, how much you need to learn, and you must be ready to put in the work. And that leads me to number 2, which is this nagging thought that I have a long way to go. Listen to me. It's one of the biggest secrets of my life. Probably, if many people were in my shoes at my age, they would just renege in their commitment to many things, and they would just be loafing up and down and all of that. But you see, that a man is going to last by the grace of God when God has given him the grace to judge not by where he is, but by where he's going. And when you see that the journey ahead of you is way more than the journey you have covered, there will be humility. You're going to calm down. You're going to put your head down and keep grinding, okay? When I see people who are quick to call themselves successful, strutting up and down like they've achieved something, it amazes me. Please don't get me wrong. There is another extreme, where people just have a low self-esteem and they don't think they're anything in life. Please, that is of the devil. That's not what I'm talking about at all. But listen, recount the words of Paul. I count not myself to have apprehended. If Paul the apostle is talking like this, how much more you and I? This one thing I do, forgetting the things that are behind, reaching out to the things which are for, I press on for the mark of the prize with the high calling of God. All right? And you see, that's one of the biggest gifts of my life. I am too forgetful to be mediocre, too forgetful. The moment I'm privileged to do something for the Lord, what next? What next? Because it's just a privilege to be here. All right? And that is one thing that really helped me. So you see, when you see people who hit a plateau, all right, and then they just disappear with time, they stop being hungry. Many times. All right, they just stop being hungry. All right. So that's another thing that really helped me. And number 3 thing that helped me a great deal. Let me tell you something. You want to grow fast? Serve. Because you see, 6 months of experience is more powerful than 50 books. It's more powerful than 50 books. In fact, in some respects, 6 months of experience is more powerful than a degree. In some respects, maybe not all the time. Serve. Find someone who is doing what you want to do at a high level. Serve. Go and humble yourself. Learn. I've just discovered it. Even in training pastors, 5 teachings on how to preach a sermon is not as important as you actually preaching, you actually evangelizing. There is something about just doing it that makes you get better with time. I'm telling you, nothing compares to actually doing it. I was watching a video some time ago, I think about maybe a year ago or so, and one of the big YouTubers was talking about how he responds to people who want to grow their YouTube channel and asking for advice. He said, before I give you any advice, go and do 100 videos and come back. Because you see, there are a lot of things just by doing the actual work, giving yourself the feedback, looking at what you could do better, adjusting every single time, that you just realize many times what we think we need, we already know. You've read it in books so many times. You're just not a doer. And that's why even in mentorship, some people, some proteges stress you out. They stress you out so much because half the questions they're asking, they have already thought on it. They haven't gone to listen to the sermon. They've not followed. They've not served. And it's people who are lagging behind in service, who always want the greatest commitment. I have no reason to be committed to you. As busy as I am, why should I give you special attention? What have you done? Serve, volunteer, be a blessing to others. All right? And you see, there are just some things you learn by watching. You just have to be there. I've told you so many times in the realm of the spirit, watching a prophet prophesy is your induction to prophecy. Just watching prophet. He doesn't have to tell him, he doesn't have to tell you, do like this. Watch it. Just watch it. Just watch it. There's so many things I've never preached on, and by the grace of God, I do with ease. And I mean with ease. I mean with ease. And just watching, close proximity will help mighty good. Okay? I want to also say something. There is something about the realm of the spirit. You see, don't forget, God rewards faithfulness. There's a picture of me with a great man of God in this country, and a lot of people were asking, how did it happen? Is it a real picture? Oh, yes, it's a real picture. And, when you have followed and served, God just orchestrates things in such a way that to whom much is given, to he that has more will be given. And it just opens you up for impartation. You don't need to lobby. That's a conversation for another day. I just wanted to throw that in. Number 4, cut off distractions. Don't do what everybody is doing and expect to get farther than they are. Cut off distractions. You know what the Bible says? Paul speaking, 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 25. It says, he that strives for mastery is temperate in all things. When you see a soldier inducted into the military, his routine is different from the average man. Don't act like a civilian and expect to be given a uniform and a gun. All right? So, you see, now you're wondering, this young man is doing great for God all around the world. How come? Well, I'll tell you, with all sense of humility, whilst many of my mates were becoming professionals at video games, the best video game player in Nigeria, in Africa, in West Africa. And now, please don't get me wrong, Del. I know a few people who are very good at the games, interestingly, exceptionally good at the games, and are great at other things. But most people don't know how to balance things like that. So, even at a young age, no game on my iPhone, on my phone. I didn't have an iPhone at the time. No game, no single game. No single game. I've always been serious. I have always been serious. Always been serious. All right. Cut off distractions. If you know that you have the tendency to sit on a series for 1 month, watching a series, oh my God. Sell the TV. Sell it. Or dash it out. All right? Just cut off distractions. Be determined. And you see, one of the ways to cut off distractions is to replace them. You know what? I discovered I was spending a lot of time on my phone at the time. And one of the things I did was to replace the habit. So I started learning a new language on Duolingo. So I'm spending time on the phone, but gainfully. I've always told you about structure. Structure is one of the ways, to control your habits, And sometimes you don't realize that bad habits is just the natural formation, to occupy space that you left that you left vacant. Nature abhors vacuum. So usually a bad habit is occupying a space that a good habit should be. All right? Never forget that. Never forget that. And whilst cutting off distractions, let me just say this. Check all my earliest pictures. I've always dressed like where I was going. I've always acted like where I was going. Talked like where I was going. It is true that the child shows the man, just like the morning shows the day. The same way you can look at the sky and say, oh, it's going to rain today. We should be able to see you and say, wow, in the next 15 years, you're going to be doing great things for God. All right. And then, of course, for the last one, just take your personal devotion seriously. Take it seriously. Because it is true that God who sees in secret rewards openly. It is true. It is true. You don't have to tell anyone you are working. When you speak, they will see it. Because God rewards openly. Never forget that. And so every time you should pray and you don't pray, you're sowing a seed. Every time you should study and you don't study, you're sowing a seed. It will show. All right? It will show. So if you do these 5 things, I believe it's only going to be a matter of time. You know, one of the life-changing things that happened to me was years ago. I've always been a lover of research and data. So when Malcolm Gladwell in his book Outliers gave a scientific research that says if you invest 4 hours on anything at all, every day for 9.5 years, you become one of the top 1% best in that thing in the world. And he said that the principle is so prolific that no matter your IQ, even if you're a dullard, if you spend 4 hours on anything every day for about 10 years, you'll be amongst the best in the world. I said, really? Well, let's see. Let's see. Whatever you cannot give 4 hours daily to, don't in 10 years be surprised you're not in the conversation of the top 1%. Go and sleep. If you didn't put any seed in the ground, don't expect a harvest. It's that simple. It's that simple. And right now, as you are here, you think it's your harvest, and some people are still in planting seasons. I can tell you the truth. I have not arrived. We are just starting. Do you understand what I'm saying? And this is your opportunity to plan for the next 10 years. Because you see, bad things will be transferred again. This is your chance. And I hope this helped you. This is 100 Days of Discipleship, day 68. Share this with someone you know and love. Leave a comment so that the YouTube algorithm will show more people. And like this video for more. And I'll see you tomorrow. God bless you.